I know I posted that the third video might be the final one, but I want to add one more, which is the floor. Now, in particular, when I talk about the floor, we're going to be talking about touching the ground. As usual, we'll get into the what, the how, the when, and the why. But first, I want to start with a general introduction to the floor. The floor is often associated with being dirty and something we shouldn't even touch with our bare feet, let alone our hands. And while that may be true, it is a dirty place, it can have a lot of benefit for our bodies and our practices in any discipline that we go into. In this video, I'm going to give you a general recommendation on how to improve the health of your wrists, your elbows, your shoulders, your upper body with the use of touching the floor. Now, I'm going to give you a general warm-up, but there are many very good specific exercises. I'm not going to go into these specific exercises in this video, but if you would like to see some, I have posted one of these exercises on my Patreon page. You can go there, become a member, and find that video along with many other videos and posts that I post on that Patreon page. But let's get into our general warm-up and start out with the how. How can we touch the ground and how can we do it more often? So number one, we're going to place the hands on the ground in as many different ways as possible. The fingers facing forward, the fingers towards the side, towards the back, on the back of the palm, rotated in, rotated out, etc. While you are placing the hand, you want to keep the elbows straight and the wrists lined up directly over the shoulder. So we are loading the wrist, the elbow, and the shoulder. When we place the hand, we want to segmentally place the hand on the ground, thinking of gradually putting weight onto the hand. Spread the fingers as much as possible and work within a range that is pain-free. There should be absolutely no pain while you are touching the floor. This might mean that you have to start with the hands directly next to the knees when you start touching the ground, and that is totally fine. Start with 60 seconds of work and aim to explore all possible variations. Some common mistakes to avoid while you're putting your hands on the ground. The first is not opening the fingers and taking full advantage of the hand. So we want to spread the fingers as much as we possibly can. In the beginning, the fingers might look and feel very unspread and close together, and that's fine. This takes time to develop. While you're putting your hands down, actively spread the fingers apart, even if there's not a huge difference between actively doing it and not doing anything. It will improve with time. The second common mistake is not segmentally placing the load, but putting the entire hand down as one unit. So like I said previously, we want to put the hand down segmentally from one portion to the other, gradually weighting the hand. The third common mistake is not keeping the wrists lined up over the shoulders. So what commonly happens is the wrists end up in front of the shoulders, and now we're not loading the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder as we want to. And the fourth mistake is progressing too fast, not showing control, and overstraining the wrist. So if you are coming down hard onto the wrist, if there is pain or strain, this is something that we want to avoid. Simply bring the hands closer to the center to a position that you can control. Why would we want to touch the floor often? What benefits does it have to us? Well, the first one is it's a great preparatory exercise for the wrist, the elbow, and the shoulder for any discipline that causes us to put the hand on the ground. For example, hand balancing, yoga, strength work, all can have an element that we put the hands on the ground. So preparing the wrists for this load is a very important thing to do, and it can help to decrease the chance of injury when we are in those disciplines. It strengthens the bones, the tendons, the ligaments, the skin, the soft tissue of the hand, again to allow increased load in the future. This will not only carry over into your movement practice, but into practices of daily life. Now, when should we be touching the floor? Well, as much as we can, to a degree, as long as it doesn't cause us pain. Now, I absolutely recommend that you touch the floor before any practice that requires you to touch the floor inside it. So if you are a yoga practitioner, you should absolutely be touching the floor, preparing the wrist, the elbow, the shoulder before that practice. Hand balancer, same thing. Locomotion, strength work that requires you to put the hand on the ground, very important to prepare the wrist beforehand. So before that practice, absolutely add it in if you're not already adding it in. Another possible time to add it in is after the session for a longer period of time, but under a smaller intensity. So maybe keeping the hands next to the knees, and this can be a great cool down for the wrist to kind of promote blood flow and promote healing of the wrist after you've done a lot of work on your hands. And then you are free to do it throughout the entire day. If you're watching a movie, go ahead and touch the floor a little bit. If you're working on the computer, sit down, squat down maybe, touch the floor a little bit. So it can be integrated throughout your entire day. This touching the floor concept is the same as our previous 3 videos of squatting, hanging, moving the spine, touching the floor. We should be doing these every day. They are the 4 basics that I recommend everyone to do in some degree. And I think it can bring a lot of freedom to your own practice. One of the mistakes that I've made in the past is constantly striving for new exercises, new information, without realizing that there is a very strong thing that I haven't practiced already. And a lot of the times that is the basics. One thing I heard from one of the teachers that I learned music from is your music does not get better because you learn new pieces of music or more complicated structures or anything like that. Your music gets better because your basics got better. And this is the same in the practice. If you've gotten better, yes, you've learned skills and this and that, but most likely your basics have progressed to the point where you could progress higher. So squatting every day, hanging, moving the spine, touching the floor should be done every single day. And there are more advanced variations that you can build up to within these basics to kind of progress yourself forward. I hope you enjoyed this 4-episode basics series. If you missed any of those episodes, you can find the playlist on this YouTube channel. If you have any questions or ideas for future videos, please let me know in the comments down below. It's always very helpful to hear from you. If you have any difficulties or suggestions, always like to hear that. Thank you for watching, and that's the session.